Welcome to Wine Country at Work. I'm Ralph Dimitrius, and I'm your tour guide today. We're going to be visiting the Alpha Omega Winery. It's right in the heart of the Napa Valley, and it's a wonderful place to visit. You know, Alpha, Omega is the beginning and the last letters of the Greek alphabet, and this is a great place to start the day, it's a great place to end the day, and right in the middle is pretty nice too. One of the reasons they stood out to us is that their hospitality keeps evolving. See, that's unusual in wine country. Usually a winery will set up and they start pouring their wine, and that's what they're focused on, is on the wine, and they go with that. But here, they've continued to improve week by week, month by month, year by year. They've gotten better and better and better. I'll go back a month later, things have changed again, typically for the better. That's unusual here in wine country, where everyone's focused on the wine, but in truth, wine hospitality is extremely important. You see, everyone knows that the wine always tastes better at the winery. So Chelsea, in the world of hospitality, what's the part you enjoy the most?
Being around people. I think being around people and watching somebody's face light up, watching somebody enjoy their time and enjoy the wine, enjoy just really the experience. You know, it's actually a joy.
Had you worked in other kinds of hospitality before wine country?
Yeah, I had been in the restaurant world, which is definitely a fast-paced, running around. You learn that you need to work hard very early. So restaurant side of it, and also some hotel experience as well.
How does this compare to like restaurant, for instance?
People are really happy in wine country. It's really, you know, it's very hard to have somebody that's upset or angry, at least at the beginning of the day. And then it's just about managing expectations a little bit from there, and customers always right, and trying to keep the customer as happy as possible.
Right. What part do you think that is the most interesting for the customer? Like there's a bunch of different reasons people come to wine country. Some is just the wine country experience, some is education, but what do you see that people enjoy the most?
Well, I think that it's beautiful. You know, there's nothing, you know, there's different beauty all over the world, but Napa Valley is a pretty stunning place, and especially during harvest, it's magical. And so I think that the experience of actually watching something happen, and you know, you talk about wine, you think about wine, but then actually seeing it happen is such a different experience than just even drinking it, because it's also, you know, I think in this industry it is selling an experience, and so it's not just selling the wine, because it's more of an emotional tie once they've been to the winery, because when they open that bottle, it's like they're reliving the experience.
Right.
And so it's so important to have not only a good experience, but you know, it makes the wine taste better.
Right.
You know, you can have a bottle of wine with somebody that you love, and have a bottle of wine with somebody that you hate, and it'll taste completely different.
They always say the wine tastes better at the winery, but I always say it's the world's best souvenir.
Exactly.
Because it reminds you of the entire trip, it reminds you of the experience of being there. It really is.
Exactly. And, you know, it is, you know, I for instance, I had a bottle of wine at Auberge up on the hill, and it was just this absolutely stunning setting, beautiful day, watched the sunset, and that was what really got me to fall in love with wine even more than I already had. It was that specific bottle of wine. Right. And I had it again, you know, I would think it was like 2 years later, and I was like, really? This was the wine that made me really love it? And it was just a different setting, and it's, again, that emotional experience that just makes everything taste better. I think something that we say here a lot is, you know, once the shark stops swimming, it sinks. And so it's, for us, it's constantly trying to think of new things, think of ways that people would enjoy the experience better, or better ways to organize ourselves so that we can treat the customer better. Right. One of the things that we realized was, you know, all of a sudden we went from seeing 100 guests to 300 guests on Saturdays. And so it was the evolution of watching this place evolve, really change and move into something different. You know, we had to learn how to deal with the space that we had, and we had to learn how do you maximize the potential of an experience? How do you make sure that everybody enjoys themselves, you know, and actually has the ability to learn, and that it's not just about a bar, it's about an experience, and it's about tasting and learning, and I think a lot of even our sales side of things is it's teaching somebody and explaining why we're so different and how the production's different, and that really, it's not so much sales as education, and so it's more kind of giving people an insight into what we do. Because it's a winery, because it's a tasting room, people forget that there is production,
Exactly.
and it's, oh wait, you guys are actually making wine here? What, we can't have an event there? So it's trying, I think, for also the seller to understand that, okay, we're in this for also the experience. So it's always a give and take on, I think, all sides of the business to find the fit and to find ways to make it work.
Rick Patton has been in this field for a number of years. He's going to share that with you. And I've always been impressed when I go into the tasting room, the amount of energy he brings to his work with his clients, the experience that he creates for visitors to the winery. So Rick, how long have you been here?
I've been with Alpha Omega about 5.5 years.
Which is like right from the beginning.
Almost. Just not quite day one.
Right.
Yeah, I actually was recruited by the owner from another winery. I guess I served him and I didn't know it, and he put it through channels to get me to come over and talk to him. So that was kind of nice.
That's very nice. Well, what part of this do you enjoy the most?
I pursued this type of lifestyle for about 15 years. I lived in the South Bay, Silicon Valley. Was in the technology industry, but my wife and I were up here 6 to 8 times a year, and every time I came here and walked into a tasting room, I said, I want to do that. So my sense of hospitality, I guess, came from what I wanted to be treated like.
Right.
Over 2 decades. And I had enough okay experiences and enough good ones where I set a model of what I wanted to do.
That's nice.
So it's one of those things where, you feel better when you're treated well.
Right.
Yeah. So I pursued this for a long time, moved up here 8 years ago, tried my skills, or started my skills at a corporate-owned wine environment and a family-owned wine environment.
Right.
And decided I like smaller, I like higher quality. If you're processing people, it'll show.
Right. Yeah.
If you're serving the public and you're interested in what you do, you have a passion for it, that shows too.
Yeah.
So I've pretty much hired virtually everyone here on the sales staff, and I had to have a passion for wine. I had to have the gift of conversation from the people that I brought on.
So you really got to shape the team in a lot of ways.
Yeah, almost everybody. A couple of them I even hired twice. So,
nice.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. The hospitality aspect of this business is incredibly important. How you feel when you leave a good restaurant can make you a regular. How you feel at a fantastic restaurant, but with a little more attitude, can change how you feel. And you'll probably go back to the good restaurant that made you feel welcome.
Well, that's a major difference, because I do know that some of the places among the corporates that do the worst job, I think, in terms of hospitality, are places where they use temps.
The people aren't engaged.
Right.
I'm sorry, it doesn't work. You got to have people that are involved in what the mission and what the profile of the winery that you want to present, and everybody's in step. And you take good care of the staff, and they will engage with the client, the customer, in a much better way. If you just, bring them in one day a week and they have no connection, it's not going to work.
Well, there's another thing that you deal with as well, is that you're watching what the harvest is about to do, and you remember what last year's harvest was like and each vintage was like.
Sure.
That's not something you get in a restaurant, because
no.
If at Bistro Gentil, if he's doing his bouillabaisse a certain way, he's going to do it the same way next year and the next way too.
Oh, soup de poisson, actually.
There you go.
I pursue that. I get an email when they're serving it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Insist.
This is foodie land after all.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think that's interesting. Having a year like this year, for instance,
Sure.
2012, where we've really had wonderful conditions, how does it affect your team in the
They talk it up as, and they're all at different levels. Newer hires, maybe not so much, but the veterans, they know that right now you talk to the customers, and you make them understand that we're headed in a very good direction for the fruit this year.
Right.
Little rain in the fall, but you can mitigate that with harvesting techniques and sorting.
Right.
But we didn't have the strange spring, and the weather has been perfect for growing quality grapes this year.
Exactly.
It's going to be great.
The last couple of years we had these very cool years.
Challenging.
You know.
Well, our winemaker is sharp. If you're lazy in the vineyard, you're not going to get good grapes. If you're focused, and no matter what Mother Nature throws at you, he knows what to do to mitigate the challenges. And every member of our staff goes on a vineyard tour. Oh. We get fruit from more than a dozen vineyards, and every one of those vineyards has a different characteristic. Mountaintop fruit's going to live differently than valley floor, and Jean insists that all staff goes out and understands where those vineyards are and what the soil is and the like. You relate that to people, they think that's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or you take them in the back and you show them tanks and you show them the barrels and you show them punch downs. They embrace that. And your larger companies can't do that.
No.
We have the time, we make the time.
What's it like working in a place that has such a high commitment to improving? Because I've watched this place since it opened, and it's been a continual process of improvement.
I'll give that to ownership and Jean, never settling for we're pretty good. We started this tasting room I started in the tasting room in March of 2007. And if we had 50 people on a Saturday, we were happy.
Right.
Now we get 500.
Right.
And you change the way you do things. You have to do it better. But the people you bring in, it's the people.
Right.
It's the people. It has to be every time. The wines have to be quality, but the people have to be engaging, friendly, make people customers feel welcome.
Right.
Don't we all feel better when someone goes, hey, come on in?
Yeah.
If you wander around for 5 minutes, nobody talks to you, it's not comfortable. You don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So, but the commitment to excellence, very important.
We can
important.
blame them for it.
All of us, yeah. I mean, I had to take that on as part of the mission.
That's great.
And you bring in people that love the wine and want to deal with the general public, and have some fun doing it.
Lilica is pretty new to this field. She had some impressive credentials before she came to Napa, which may or may not apply to wine tourism. It is a pretty unique type of occupation. But I really like her take on it because it's very fresh. It shows what we experience when we first come here from the outside world and experience wine country and experience wine tourism from both sides of the tasting table. So Lila, what's your job position here?
So here at Alpha Omega, I'm Director of Business Development.
Business Development.
Yes. Which means a whole host of different things. And it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But generally, what I like to say, my job is basically outreach around the valley and finding new ways to get new clients through our front doors. Or bring Alpha Omega to clients on site somewhere off site.
Well, considering that Rick was telling me that when they started off, when he was like 5 years ago, it was like 50 people coming in the door. Now it's 500 people. They must be doing something
well,
right.
I wish I could say that was all my success. I've been here a little over a year and definitely am standing on the shoulders of great people who have worked very hard to get Alpha Omega's name out there. And so now it's just about finding interesting, different, unique ways to differentiate Alpha Omega. We're in an amazing valley with 450 or however many wineries, so it's about finding new and different things to do to keep growing and to keep finding interesting ways and innovating. So.
Well, that's why I was telling John that I had tasted his wine at the Vintners auction a few years ago, and his was one that really stood out to me because it was very innovative.
Sure.
It also was my favorite, but it was really innovative, and that so many people were even though it was supposed to be a different wine for that, you're supposed to do a special barrel for it. Lots of people were playing a little safe.
Yes.
But he really didn't, and it really stood out.
Certainly. Jean is someone who doesn't generally play it safe, and I think that really runs through the entire company in the best way, in that people are encouraged to be innovative, to have new ideas, to try new things, and it's okay to try things and fail. Fail quickly, basically, so we can find what does work. but creativity is certainly encouraged and embraced here.
In fact, that's one of the things that really attracted us to do something about Alpha Omega, is that what's it like working among a team that has this high commitment to improvement?
It's fairly incredible and also pretty intense. So you're around people who are thinking and who are pushing and willing to push, which is incredible because it's an iron sharpens iron situation, where together we will do more because we're pushing each other and questioning each other. But there's also never a day that you can just sort of kick back and say, I'm just going to do what I've done before and no one will notice.
Right.
Because they do, and we do push each other. But I love being at the forefront, being in a place where no one around here says, well, this is how we've done it. Everyone says, first of all, we've only been around for 6 years, so we don't have a lot of history of how we've done it. But everyone's willing to rethink it, and for better or worse. And I think it actually ends up being for better most of the time.
See, that really stands out because, many people will come here as part of the retirement project.
Sure.
So they're kind of planning on coasting to a certain extent.
Sure.
But to see a place that really has a sense of that this is still a growing area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And very much a business. I mean, we're looking at it from a business perspective. And especially, I had very little wine experience coming into this, and they brought me in because of having a business strategy and marketing background. And the idea was, let's look at it different than how other wineries are looking at it. Because if you're looking at it only through one lens with just having one background or no diversity of thought, you're going to get the same answer every time, or you're going to get the same answer as the 5 wineries down the street.
Right.
And so it is really looking at it from, just as in business, you have to differentiate yourself. You have to have a competitive advantage in something that makes it different and interesting. And for me, it helps that we have really beautiful wines, and Jean makes incredible wines, and that's at the very heart of what we do, which is highlighting that.
Most importantly, what part do you find most enjoyable? What's most fun for you about the business?
The most fun for me is, even though I don't do as many tastings as I'd like, I love sitting with people, connecting with them, hearing why they're here, how they got here, what interested them about wine, because we all have a background,
right,
and we all have a story of how we ended up here, whether we're working or just here on vacation tasting. And I love seeing the look on their face when you tell them something that they didn't know before, or when they share information with me, and just really connecting with the customers and the clients. That's the very best part.
Well, especially these days, because there's so much in our life that separates us from people. Everything's done by text, everything's done by email.
Point.
You could spend your entire life in your cubicle and never see anybody. But wine tasting by its very nature has to be up close and personal.
Yes, that's a really good point. And it is. And then you feed off each other's energy, and that's really important to me, is being able to really be kind of a positive energy, and if someone wants to have a new experience or to get a recommendation, to really understand them and then give them the best experience. And I think that there are so many places, whether it be hotels or transportation companies or wineries, that we all understand that we're trying to sell our brand, but really we're all collectively selling Napa Valley.
Right.
And so it's about making sure that they have a great time wherever they are in Napa Valley.
Right.
And I love that. It's kind of this collective team feeling across the entire valley.
Yeah, people oftentimes say, is there a lot of competition between the wineries? And I realize that not really. It's a very cooperative community.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, certainly we're all trying to find those great clients that want to take home cases of wine, but we also know that they don't taste only at one place.
Exactly.
So if we get them, it's very much a cooperation and referring people and finding partners that we work well with and the brands that match, and then doing good business together.
Many times the most successful wineries I actually see are wineries that recognize that people aren't just coming to see one winery. Because we're in a tour business, so we'll go to 3-5 wineries in a day. They want to come up and to go to 2 or 3 wineries, and many wineries that they tend to fall down a little bit is the only people that are coming to see is me, and they want to monopolize the day. And they get passed by a lot because people think, I don't want to spend that much time at this one winery, but I want to go someplace where I'm going to feel comfortable. The wine's going to be interesting, and it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So many times you can go to wineries where everything, every winery tastes kind of the same. That's one of the things I love about Alpha Omega, that the whole style of the wines are really unique.
Thank you. Yeah, well, and there's a wide variety of wines to offer. So we do have, if you have a group that's sort of mixed, and that some people like red, some people like white, some people like fuller bodied, we have, not everything, but we have quite a few different wines to offer, and hopefully everyone can enjoy their experience, even if they don't love every single wine.
Right. I have to tell you what's funny is that since I was here like 2 or 3 weeks ago, you changed things since then.
Oh my God. I hardly even notice anymore, but you're probably right.
Oh yeah, you
And
changed
it's
things
constant.
since then.
I mean,
Yes.
it's death taxes and change. Those are the only things that are constant around here.
The wine industry, I should say, even though it's not an industry for me, it's more an art. But the wine industry, I have seen in my career that usually has the problem or issue of two things. Very often it's considered more a hobby and a passion than a business at the beginning. And then owners, investors, or whoever they are, corporation in certain cases, realize that you still have a bottom line. And what I've seen throughout the past in Europe or in the US is actually the fact that you always have two sides of the company that shoot in different directions. One is the marketing and sales that shoot in one, and the other one is production. So at the beginning of Alpha Omega, when Robin, Eric, and I sat down, they said it'd be interesting to have you do both in order to give a consistency and a common direction to the business. So I guess I inherited from that, and I'm the winemaker and the general manager. It's true. It is very helpful, but I also think it's very tightly related to the size of the company. You know that at Alpha Omega we're actually a really small producer. If you compare us to our neighbors, you know we have 3.2 million cases on one side, 1.4 million cases on the other, 90 on another side, 1,000 cases, and we're barely at 15. Half of that being wine club wines only, so not even our core wines. So we're really a crumb on the table. And so it's much easier, of course, to manage, different side of a company when you're that little. And I think the bigger you grow, the more you need specialized people in special fields, and you lose a little bit of that global aspect of things. And I think it comes back to the definition of wine. There's a lot of outstanding wine in the world today. I think general quality of wine did raise quite a bit over the last 20 years. So there's great wines. But I think there's much more to that. If you see wine as an art, meaning as something that creates an emotion, you know first that it's subjective. So if it's subjective, you have to offer more than a great wine. Making great wine, it's my job. I'm the winemaker. But the same bottle of wine shared with your worst enemy or your best friend is going to taste dramatically different. If you follow that principle, a person that comes in Napa Valley to change their day-to-day life, to get a little bit of time off, to really be able to relax their brain and their soul, well, when they walk in a winery, they want to be happy. They want to be comfortable. They want to truly understand the real value of life. And wine represents that. If you look at it, wine is one of the few goods that you buy to share. Very rarely do you buy an outstanding bottle of wine to drink it in the corner or to drink it in between two meetings or to keep for yourself. That's not what you do. You actually buy wine and drink and consume wine to share, to discuss, to talk. Last night, my parents flew in town 2 days ago. Last night, I'm having a bottle of wine with them with dinner. It's 2.5 hours of talking about anything, family matters, politics, news, but it completely reversed the pace in which life is today dictated by society. We have iPhones, iPads, Androids, Twitter, Facebook, that is pushing the world, the generations, to be more efficient, to be faster, to be quicker. Well, wine for me is one of the fewest last tools that we have with food to bring people back to human interaction, discussing and debating any kind of subject. And I think when you know and understand that concept, or at least have that concept, well, you understand that wine is hospitality. And that's where, within Alpha Omega, we had to find a system where we actually bind the two together. And that's where the direct-to-consumer, the experience, if you take our wine here at Alpha Omega and you serve it by a really angry, cranky person, it's not going to taste the same. So of course you're going to find staff, people, colleagues that enjoy that share that same vision, that pour the wine with a smile on their face. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Yes. I think if you look at it, once again, if you look at wine as an art and an emotion, my job is to create an emotion. Good or bad, that's subjective, that's taste. But I have to create an emotion. And I think wine that does that to me. It's something that just talks to me. So I started because my entire family on the American side, my mother is American, that's where I got the English part, and my dad is Swiss, we always lived in Switzerland. They were all lawyers, so I thought I would go to law school. And after 2 years in law school, I really learned how to play cards and drink wine. So I thought, okay, I might want to do something else. Being in Switzerland, you're pushed into the financial, money side because it's part of the culture there. So I started working in the wealth management and stayed there for a year and a half, 2 years, about 2 years, doing accounting, finances, and stuff like that. Whichever direction I was going to go, it's a good background to have. And it did. So it brought me kind of the business side of things with then understanding my true passion, which was wine. And so by going in that direction, I really had the opportunity, the luck, I think also is the term, to bind the two together. And for me, that's the beauty of wine. When you look at it, it's things you cannot control, nature, vintage, plant interaction. We're discussing biodynamics, so the interaction of the sky, the stars, the soil, the air, the climate, many different factors. With what? With science. Because today, biochemistry, organic chemistry are a huge component of winemaking. But it is the winemaker's obligation and duty to never forget that it's an art. And therefore, the only way you can, for me, make wine is with your heart. So it's by tasting, touching, and feeling the product, and not applying recipes, not following rules. Because the greatness of wine and the greatness of a vintage is its diversity. And if you look at 9, 10, 11 in Napa Valley, or even 12, they're very different personalities. They express themselves in very different ways. But the beauty of it is also its diversity. And that's something that I believe as well in society. The richness of a society is the diversity. Yes, communication is very helpful. I think that's a good point. It's a good way to put it. And I don't think you make wine or sell it alone. No. It's a team effort. And the greatness of a success or a business that works or a wine that is well made or an art piece that is masterful. It's not only one mind. It's not only one set of hands. It's multiple brains, multiple eyes that retweak and rechange and readapt and better a system, better, thoughts, doubts, protocols and stuff like that. And by having an open-minded company, by having and hiring people that have an opinion because they love what they do to start with, you actually limit the amount of mistakes you make. And for me, all of our staff on the production side or the sales and marketing side are like that. There are people where we can sit down and put any subject on the table. They will have an opinion. And more brain is always better than one. So everything is doubted. We take, on the production side, every year we take interns. They come here very impressed sometimes, a little bit intimidated by, oh my gosh, I'm starting a new job and I'm going to talk to the winemaker and what's going on. And I say, you have as much to give me as I have to give you. They worked in different culture, different climate, with different experience. They're going to have a different perspective. And to be able to hear it is going to make us, Alpha Omega, me as a winemaker and a person, better. So ultimately, they're granting me a favor as much as I am them. And I think that's another great thing about a company like Alpha Omega.
We want to thank the folks at Alpha Omega for their hospitality and for taking the time to share with us about how they make wine country work. It's been a very interesting experience. So until next time, I'm Ralph D. Michis, your tour guide, wishing you a santé.